Okay, so we'll get started. My name is Justin Hurst, and I am the chair of the Audit Subcommittee of the Springfield City Council. It is now 4 o'clock on September 13th, and we have one item on the agenda, which is a presentation of the results of the city's fiscal year 2021 external financial statement audit by Powers and Sullivan. And I also know we are joined by, I believe I see Councilor Allen from the City Council. And Young, I'll let you introduce everyone else who is going to speak to this item today.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Today we have Powers and Sullivan with us. Representing Powers and Sullivan are Mike Nelligan, partner, as well as Todd Jurisic, who is also a partner on this engagement. Councilor Hurst, I don't know if Mike Nelligan has the ability to share his screen as he'll be going over some presentations.
Let's give it a shot. And if I have to do something, then I will.
So this is our presentation. We've got about 25 slides here. I'm only going to talk about the first 10 or 15 of them or so. And I just want to start off by thanking everybody. We're very pleased to have your business. We've got a good relationship with everyone in the city, and the audits each year seem to go pretty smoothly and on a timely basis. We've you can go to the next slide. We're going to just our introduction, our overview of the 2021 audit process, a quick overview of the results of the audit, and a review in the back. Those are the slides I was not planning on talking about unless you wanted to. Is a quick review of the 22 audit plan, and that's not on the agenda. So that's why I mentioned that I probably wouldn't get to those slides. So you can go to the next one. So the main objective of our work is the expression of our audit opinions on the city's financial statements and the city's compliance with the uniform guidance with respect to federal grants. The city spent about $98 million on federal grants in 2021. And we audited all of the major programs that were required to be audited. And there were 6 of those. And those programs are all based on a threshold of about $3 million. So any grant that's over about $3 million is required to be audited on a rotating basis every 3rd year. This past year, we had to do 6 of them. And typically we do anywhere between 3 and 5, but last year, just the way it comes up, we had to do a few more. So on the single audit, we had no findings or question costs. The report has been submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse and has been accepted, and there are no issues with that. So if you want to go to the next one. This talks about our responsibilities to plan the audit and to conduct our audit in accordance with government auditing standards and U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. So your financial statements are completely GAAP compliant, and they actually get submitted to the GFOA, which is the Government Financing Officers Association, for an award program similar to what you do on the budget award. And the city has gotten the award, I think, for the past 13 years or so. And we have not got the 21 results back from the GFOA yet, but we expect it any day. I have gotten several emails that it's been pushed along and it's available. It's just a matter of getting it off of their website. And we should expect to see that any day now. So if you want to go to the next one, Young. The 21 audit results. We issued unmodified opinions on the financial statements. Those are the same as what you would consider to be a clean audit opinion. There's no matters mentioned in our opinions that raise any questions about the city's financial statements. And again, as I said before, they're fully GAAP compliant, and they contain all of the most recent GASB standards, and there are no issues with them. And on the single audit, as I mentioned, that's the second bullet. We had no significant instances of non-compliance and other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And those results also flow into the management letter that we issued, where we're required to report in writing any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We had none of those. And those are left up to our judgment based on the results of our audit. So we had no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that are required to be reported. We did have several management letter comments that are meant to improve operational efficiency or improve internal controls, and I'll go over that when we get to that slide. I'm going to talk about a few things relating to the numbers. Your net pension liability and your net OPEB liability, respectively, were recorded in full and the pension liability was about $800 million, and the OPEB liability is $1,642,000,000, sorry. Those liabilities are being funded more aggressively on the pension side, and once that is fully funded in 2033, monies will shift over to begin funding the OPEB plan with some earnest. Right now, there's a couple of maybe $3 million set aside for the OPEB liabilities, which is really insignificant. I think the funding ratio on that was about less than 2%. And the funding ratio on the most recent valuation on the pension plan is about 39%. So we're starting to make some headway on that one. And if you want to go to the next slide, so again, this is where we talk about the city prepares an annual comprehensive financial report. That name has changed. If you used to hear about what the city formerly called it, the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, that word has been changed to Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and that'll be the acronym from now on. It's ACFA. And as I mentioned earlier, that has been submitted to the GOFA for the award program, and we should be hearing about the results on that any time now. I don't expect there'll be any issues. If there were any, we would have already heard about them. So I'm expecting there to be minor comments on that as they've been in the past. And then the next few slides, if you will, just kind of go through the components of the ACFA. And I won't spend a lot of time on that. The document is about 158 pages long, and it includes the various sections, introductory section, the transmittal letter, organizational chart, directory of officials, and the prior year award, and then as the financial section and a statistical section. And if you go to this next slide, the statistical section is broken down into these categories: financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, demographic and economic information, operating information, and finally free cash and stabilization. So all of those statistics are presented in the back of the report, and there's a whole bunch of information there that is useful for citizens and anyone else concerned with the financial aspects of the city. This page, the financial position, highlights the general fund balance. The budget for the year 21 was about $756 million. Yeah, budgetary revenues exceeded budget by $5.3 million, mainly from tax liens, casino revenue increases, excise taxes, and additional state aid. Your expenditures were under budget by $22 million, and that includes $32 million that was carried over by the schools. Your general fund balance at the end of the year was $138.6 million, and that includes $50 million of stabilization funds that are set aside for rainy day. Your general fund balance as a percentage of expenditures was 17.86%. And the rating agencies that are looking and rating your city expect that ratio to be somewhere in the 7 to 15% range. So you're well over what that typical range is. So that's very acceptable from a credit rating point of view. And your unassigned general fund balance, which is what you can spend without, there are portions of the total general fund balance that are restricted, or they call it committed or assigned. And those are for various things, but mostly for encumbrances. The unassigned portion, which is available for spending, is 99.7 million. And if you flip to the next one, Young, the pension funded ratio in the last valuation was 30.23. So now you're up to 30.39, just a little over 39. So you've had a couple of good years back to back on that. And I guess we probably won't need to talk about what's happening in the market this year, although I think we disclosed that prior to today's results, the fund was down about $37 million in unrealized losses that we were hoping that were going to be made up, but today that hole gets dug a little deeper. I talked about OPEB already. Your governmental debt, the next to the last bullet down on the page, was $203 million at the end of the year. And the general fund debt service on that debt was $25.8 million. And that's 3.5% of your 21 budget. Again, the rating agencies are looking for that not to be more than about 8%. So you're well under that gauge that they're looking at as well.
Can you just hold on just 1 second, and Councilor Allen, feel free to jump in at any point in time since it's just the two of us on this meeting. Just tell me again, what were you expecting for the market to do and what didn't it do?
Well, we've been so the pension the pension assets that are set aside for the pension liability, they had gone down in value through the end of May about $54 million or so because of the market being down. They came back a little bit in July and early August. And so the number that we're going to disclose them being down as of the end of July, I think it is about $37 million. And we were hoping that was going to get less and less as time went on throughout the year. But the market being down today over 1,000 points is going to continue to hurt that funding ratio. Now, hopefully by the end of the year, it'll be back up again. But you know, that is what's happening with the pension plan assets that are set aside for that funding. They're being.
Is that typical? I mean, is that just a reflection on the volatility of the market, or is that?
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They actually smooth out those market value increases or decreases over a 5-year smoothing period. So it's not a direct one-to-one impact on it, because the actuaries do use a smoothing technique to kind of level that out a little bit. And that's well within their purview to do that. And so I'm just kind of pointing that out, that there are market value declines going on this year that you ought to be aware of.
Got it.
Hopefully they won't be too bad by the time the end of the year comes around.
Thank you.
So on the next slide, Young, is the management letter status.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
I'm sorry, I'm driving. I didn't realize I wasn't muted. So if I could just, thank you. If I could just ask you a couple of questions on that.
Absolutely.
I understand everything you said about the mark. I didn't realize the mark today, but everything else, I'm with you. I tend to be someone who's focused on the pension a lot in the last few years. One thing that I heard you say was, did you say we were 39% funded? Let's forget about this year's problems. You had us at 39% funded, or was that 30.9%?
No, 39% funded.
I mean, that's far and away the highest we've been. We were trying to get to 30 for the longest time. We were at 26. So that's good news, but the growth in fiscal year, I know we're having a bad year this year, but the year before was a terrific year, if I'm not mistaken. And do you know what the growth in our assets was the year before, percentage-wise?
Just over $100 million.
And that would be roughly what percentage?
Oh, it's over about 25%.
About 25. Okay, great. I knew it was over 20. So it's just the way it goes. Hopefully, but the 30, I didn't realize we had gotten up to 39% funded. That, when we started really focusing on this, we were 26% funded, and the next one after us, the second to last place, was 42%. So that's good progress. I'm sorry to hear about this year, obviously, but appreciate the update. That's all I need for now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the management letter. We had just two new current year comments. We had the payroll system got hacked during the company that provides you with payroll services or time management services, if you will, is Kronos. And they were hit with some sort of cybersecurity issue in their company, and it caused the city to be without those services for a while. And during that period of time, there were a whole bunch of different methodologies used to compile the payroll, weekly payroll information. And what our comment is recommending is that you come up with an alternative system that can be rolled out in case that ever happens again, so that everybody in the system in the city is using a consistent, agreed upon way to communicate payroll information if that system were to go down again. So, and management agrees with the comment, and they are working on coming up with an alternative plan. The other thing was we did a site visit at Parks and Recreation and DPW, and one of the findings that we came back with is we noticed that the fuel pumps at the golf courses are date back to the 60s, and the information that is available from them is really limited. The meters on them are not functioning properly, and we're recommending that the city consider replacing those with newer technologies that can provide information, better information on fuel usage at the golf courses. We had a couple of prior year comments on just monitoring the golf courses overall, old property tax, personal property tax collections, most of which you collected in April of this past year from Eversource, and payroll department communication changes during COVID. And that was a similar but a different kind of payroll issue. And that comment is still valid as well in terms of how information is communicated to the payroll department. We want to make sure that that information is secure and consistently approved as it comes across. And then we have two informational comments. One is on the continuing funding ratio of the pension plan, and the other is on any new leases in there whenever there are new GASB standards. This coming year, 2022, there's a new standard relating to leases. We have met with city officials, and this is being addressed as we go. And so the 22 audit is in process right now, and I don't expect there to be any issues with the lease standard being implemented on a timely basis. So that's sort of the management letter. Again, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. The next slide, Young, talks about the single audit. So the city is required to have a single audit anytime total federal expenditures exceed $750,000. So you're having one every cycle. Like I said, you spent $98.7 million in federal grant awards this past year. Most of that, or 61 million of that, was at the school department. 20.5 million was at community development. 12 million was coronavirus relief funds, and you had 5 million of other, a whole bunch of other little grants. The grants that we audited, and again, we're required to audit them on a rotating 3-year basis, were school lunch, community development, coronavirus relief fund, special education, and the educational stabilization fund. And so we completed the audit of all of those programs. And again, we had no findings or question costs associated with those programs. Most of them are fairly mature. The Coronavirus Relief Fund is new, obviously, but the others are mature programs, then we typically don't have any problems auditing those. So that's pretty much the summary of what happened for 2021. So we only have a half an hour and we're getting close to the time on that. So I'll leave it up to you to answer any questions or take any questions from you or anything that you want to talk about regarding the audit and any other questions that you might have.
I do not. Councilor Allen, did you have any further questions?
Yeah, I just raised my hand. Thanks for calling on me. Yeah, my only question is still on the pension plan. You said you had mentioned it in your, management letter. And I'm wondering, there's probably a lot to funding a pension plan, but the main two components are the performance of the market, obviously, and also the discipline that we have on making sure that we pay our pension contribution every year, we the city. And we have really, I think we have been really strong on that. The mayor and the city council have been together on this issue probably as much as any other issue. And feel that we have paid this thing religiously the way we should have, but some of our predecessors did not, or at least one somewhere along the line. So I'm wondering what your management letter is. Does it recommend anything more, like overpayments, or is it just making a comment that it's still a challenge? What is the spirit of your message?
So the spirit of it is you have a funding schedule that increases 9% a year. And when you get out into the 20, 29, 30, 31 years, the total contribution is up in the $180 million category or somewhere around there. So our recommendation is to, keep your eye on that funding schedule and try and find a way to fund that. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at pushing that out beyond the 2034 target. You can go out to 2040 under the current law, but you have a very aggressive funding schedule, and our comment basically just points that out, that you do have a plan to get the fully funded by 2034, and I think it's actually 2033 now in the new funding schedule that came out with this new valuation as of 1/1/22. But it's aggressive, and we're just trying to point that out, that most communities aren't looking at a 9% increase in their funding schedule every year.
I would, if I could just reply, yeah, point well taken. We're well aware of it. Glad you pointed it out. Our action item that we took this year, and you may be aware of it, is that we were looking at pension obligation bonds.
Yes.
And I was on the committee with TJ Plant and members of his financial team, and myself from the city council. We met in subcommittee, in not council subcommittee, but like in a subcommittee format. We had investment community people involved, etc. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
So
much
I don't need to say anymore if you're aware of it. But my point was that we're aware of that, and that was at that point that was our action item to try to mitigate those future payments, was to get have a pension obligation bond so we would even out those payments. Obviously, with the performance of the market, we blew the whistle on that. TJ mainly, but obviously you see what happened today. You can see why we blew the whistle on it, because it just didn't look like a good market year. So I think it's a good point. What else can we do? Like, could we overpay for a few years? All that sort of stuff. We've talked about that in the past, but we don't need to discuss it all here. But I just wanted to make sure I understood what your comment was. So I will follow up with TJ and see what other options, if you've talked with him, what other things we can do to at least keep it on the front burner.
Yeah, no, I don't think you need to do anything other than stick with the plan, because you do have a plan. It's going to be tough to achieve the whole thing by 2034. But we'll see what happens. I think you can get there.
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
won't be,
it's
it won't be without any pain, but you should be able to get there.
yeah, good. Okay, thanks for your pointing that out and for your diligence on the whole thing. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or to know?
No, that's it for today. If there aren't any other questions.
I don't have any further questions. Certainly, thank you all who have been a part of this process, and thank you for the presentation. One thing that would be helpful is if we could get the slides, and if there is more to the presentation, it sounds like there might be a bit more, then we
Yes.
certainly would appreciate that as well, in order to know.
Yes, I'll get that out tomorrow morning to City Council.
Thank you. There are no further questions. That concludes this audit subcommittee meeting, and thank you all so much for participating.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
There's somebody with their hand raised. Is that?
That was me.
Oh, that's still you, Tim. Okay, got it.
That was me.
Okay.
I'm all set now.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Take
care.
it easy.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
too.
day.
Okay, thanks.